Welcome to the Uncommon Career Podcast, helping you to find God's calling for your career and to land a fulfilling, well-paid, and impactful position. Join me each week for practical guidance, career motivation, and biblical insight based on Christian values. Did you know that most career candidates waste time and unknowingly set themselves back, whether it's days, weeks, months, or just let go of the career process altogether? In this episode, I'm going to tell you about the 3 key changes you need to make to instantly speed up your job search and make it much more effective. I imagine that you're here because you've been in the field for years, you've got some experience, and you're in a place in your life where it's time for a new position. You're ready to move on to something new. You're excited for the prospects, a new opportunity, a clean slate, maybe a career pivot, a new challenge, or maybe some growth. And in this process, you're trying to get to the perfect resume. This is the first thing that everyone goes to when they want to go for a new position. You look at your resume, dust it off, and realize there's a lot of updates to make. And then you start going into the action verbs and you start working around the resume word by word, bullet by bullet. You realize that your summary is bland and you're working towards quote unquote the perfect sentence or the perfect paragraph and try and get the most strategic way to possibly explain your experience. You're crossing every T and dotting every I. And now it's been hours or days or 2 or 3 weeks. And now you have a resume that looks similar to what you started with. Maybe it's got some updates, but you are no closer to that dream job. This right here, this is the first thing I'm going to ask you to stop doing. This is the number one way that all job searchers spend their time where it's just not very effective. For one, when you're writing your resume, you're really focused more on how you're saying the experience that's on your resume as opposed to going back one step and saying, okay, what experience am I sharing? What perspective am I sharing that experience from? And how do I communicate that in the best way? So it's not really the words on the resume that are going to get you to move forward in the process. It's the overall package. So you've got to take one step back, maybe 2 or 3 steps back, and start at the very beginning from who you are as a person and what you bring to the position. Second, when you're working on your resume, you typically don't have a coach or someone from human resources or another manager there telling you when the resume is ready and giving you the specific feedback that you need to make the overall package more appealing. So because you don't have a standard, you just continue to work on it without a real finish line. Third, working on your resume is going to take as much time as you give it. And because most career searchers don't put a time frame on it, you're going to find yourself working on it for hours, weeks, maybe even months, feeling like it's not quite ready yet. Remember that 80% of the outcome is based on 20% of your action. And your resume, I'm sorry, but it is not in your 20% that's going to lead to the result. Most people submit hundreds of resumes and they get nowhere. And that should tell you that the resume is not in and of itself the 20% of action that's going to get you to the negotiations table. Now, instead of working on your resume, I encourage you focus on networking. The time spent on your resume versus the time spent on networking is vastly different. The time spent on your resume is going to have diminishing returns, meaning that the more time you spend on it, the less effective that time will become. And instead, when you focus on networking, you're going to build momentum, meaning that as you have more time spent in networking, as you make more connections and build more relationships, your likelihood of benefiting from that networking time is going to be greater and greater and greater until, of course, you get to that interview. Now, remember that the purpose of the resume is to get you past the paper cut and into the interview itself. The resume does not get you the job. The application, your experience, etc., everything as a package gets you the job, but the purpose of the resume is to get you to the interview. And what I'm telling you is, hey, if you work on networking, you are more likely to be referred into a company where the resume is important, sure, but it's not nearly as important as the fact that you come personally referred, and that's what's going to get you into the interview faster. Okay, so now for the second time waster, I'm going to hit up the online job search boards. Remember all those times that you went to Indeed or Monster.com and you just thought, hey, this isn't too hard. I can do this. And I'm just going to start searching for my job. They give you all these options to search by industry or by level of experience or education or type of position, even search by salary. So that just seems like it's totally within your reach and you just start searching. Next thing you know, you're following some rabbit hole in any which direction. There's no strategy to the keywords or search terms that you have. And 2 hours later, you find yourself with strained eyes and a list of potentially related, but maybe completely unrelated positions. Let's say you apply to 20 positions, when in reality, let's be honest, everyone applies to 30, 50, 100 plus positions. But let's just say 20. You apply to these 20 positions, and it's crickets. You hear back from none of them. I know you've been there. I've been there too, where you just feel like, hey, I just keep getting rejected. And not even rejected. You don't even get like a, hey, we considered you and we decided to go in a different direction. No, nothing. It's like you're not even worthy of a response. This has absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with a completely broken system. But because of the way we're wired as humans, we start to get all these thoughts in our minds. And I know you've had these too, when you think, well, maybe I'm just not experienced enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough. And sometimes it goes as far back to be like, as a person, I'm not good enough. But that is so not true. Even still, there's nothing that we can really do about it if we're by ourselves. If we're isolated and we're not talking to other folks, these thoughts just sort of consume us. And then what happens? Then you lower your standards, you settle for a lower position because your dream job, that whole idea of opportunity and challenge and growth, it has all seemed to have lost its luster. And now it just seems overwhelming, insurmountable, and like it's just never going to happen for you. And you start looking for positions that have all the requirements and desired qualifications that you already have. So yes or no, basically, you're looking for the same position you already have. Like, why would you leave your job to get the exact same thing with possibly the exact same salary? This is the problem with online job search boards. It pits you against the machine to where you hit submit and there's nothing on the other end. Nothing that's alive anyway. There's a person, like 2 or 3 or 4 computers and 2 or 3 or 4 algorithms back that you can't even get there unless you have the perfect list of keywords. That's just not how this is supposed to do. You should not be made to fight with the machine before you ever get to a person. It removes your authority. It removes your confidence in your ability to negotiate. So here's what I want you to do instead of spending all that time on online job search boards. I want you to shift all that time to instead focus on building a system. Build a system where the job search boards are maybe 5 minutes worth of that entire system, where those 5 minutes are really targeted, where you say, I'm going to search for this keyword, this keyword, this keyword, and these job search parameters, and what comes up, and I'm only going to search it once a week, and then I'm going to move on to the other aspects of my job search, which, to be honest with you, are much more beneficial and much more fruitful than what you get from the online job search. Okay, so stop doing the online job search quite as much and instead focus on building a system where your job search is only 5 minutes of that portion and the rest of your time is going to things that actually move the needle. Things like the networking we talked about earlier, or things like figuring out what your brand story is. Okay, so now this brings me to my third mistake. I want you to stop rehearsing your interview answers. Because think about it. Imagine that you continue to apply for more and more positions and you still don't get a call back. And then finally, someone calls you back and you're like, score, you're super excited. And so you prepare more than any candidate has ever prepared. You rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse your answers. Then you print out your answers, you put them in a portfolio, you get all dressed up, you go to the interview, shake the hands, you look everyone in the eye and you've got this perfect smile. You sit down, they ask you, tell me about yourself. And you give a perfect answer with confidence and grace and it just comes out beautifully. But then they start asking you the second question, the third question, and you start realizing that they're asking you different questions than what you prepared for. For multiple reasons, the interview falls flat. You end up drained and exhausted, and your words have no life in them. This right here is the reason why I'm encouraging you to stop rehearsing the answers to questions you don't even know will be asked. This is why we blank out. Rehearsing means that, number one, you assume that the questions you're rehearsing for are the questions they're going to ask you. So in your mind, you feel that you already know what's going to happen in the interview, and you've got word for word answers for those. But when the questions they ask start to be completely different or even just slightly different to what you prepared for, then the mental gymnastics begins. Your mind starts to try to reconcile what you prepared for and what you expect versus what they actually asked. And even if the question is just a little bit different than what you already prepared for, you're going to try to jam pack the answer word for word into the question that they gave you. Now, this doesn't work for anyone because the response that you're giving, if it's not in direct alignment with the question that was asked, it basically just means that you're not understanding what the company's asking you. And at the end of the day, that's what they want to know. They want to know that you understand them, that there's a genuine connection, a compatibility there. And having those rehearsed answers takes all of that away. Rehearsing also means that you take out your personality and instead focus on the order of the words or the specific words instead of focusing on the life and the message and the genuine connection you can build in the moment. Speaking from rehearsed answers also removes the context of the conversation. So imagine that you're talking with a friend. You're not just answering the one question they asked 30 seconds ago, but you're actually having a conversation that brings in the environment, the situation, all of your prior history with that friend, whether in that one conversation that's maybe a half hour long or in your entire relationship. And so when you're at the interview table, what you want to focus on is on taking all the information in. Understand the context. Understand the questions that they asked you prior to the current question. Take a look at their reactions to your responses. And your response should give them the information that they're seeking. For example, in the beginning of the interview, you might notice that they wanted more information on a particular aspect. Yes, you answered their question then, but now in a future question, you want an opportunity to share more on that topic because you've realized that this is an important aspect of the work for them. Okay, so moral of the story, no more rehearsing your answers. I want you to instead focus on mentally organizing your own experience and mentally organizing your own brand stories. Understand who you are and what your professional identity is, and then communicate that from the inside out, from a space of knowing as opposed to a space of rehearsing. I want you to know who you are as a professional, to live it out, and to understand yourself as a first person, to understand yourself in first person, meaning you're speaking both from your own task, what you did, what you saw, what you experienced, but also, and sometimes more importantly, I want you to understand it in third person, meaning you're understanding it from the perspective of people who are watching you. So what was the impact of your work? How did you save the company or the department time or money? How did you increase efficiency or make more sales? So speak from both the task that you did, but also from the impact. So first person and third person. This all together, it's going to help you to get out of your head and to get into the interview room because I want you present so that you can speak from who you are naturally and organically, and you'll be able to speak to what they want to hear in the moment. If it's a good fit, you're going to move forward. So place more faith in the fact that you know what you know, and you're ready to interview and just have a conversation with them. And place less of your faith and trust in the fact that you've got the perfect words to share at that interview. We all have that feeling, but trust me, it'll be well worth it to switch from rehearsal to internalizing your own experience. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of this podcast episode, but I just want to remind you that if any of this conversation sounds like you or resonated with you, remember that at the end of the day, it is not you. It is not you. There is nothing wrong with you. It is a broken system that just makes everyone feel completely inadequate. But the potential to change that and turn it on its head is available to everyone. And if you take these 3 tips, make these 3 key changes, your job search will become a lot easier. You'll feel like things are just rolling a little bit smoother and you'll find more success along the way. Now, I'm not just going to give you 3 tips and then say that's all you need to make your career change. The reality is there's so much more to the process, and I can also show you the intricate details of each one of these tips and how you can accelerate your job search even more. If you're interested, head over to theuncommoncareer.com where I've got a freebie to give you career clarity to confirm that you are going in the calling that God has for you. And then if you are interested, we do have a course and a community where you get on-demand course content on all topics for every part of the career search. I also have live trainings and office hours where you can ask me questions directly. We've got group coaching, co-working, and a community component. Now, regardless which route you take, know that I am cheering you on, I am praying for you, and I cannot wait to see what God does with your career search.